Movie lights. Don't waste your time watching complete movies and series.
The film starts from inside the Institute of Mathematical Science Techniques in Boston, with Professor Lambo, who will be the winner of the Fields Prize in Mathematics, and the professor puts his students as a very difficult mathematical problem, and the professor tells the students that whoever can solve this problem before the end of the trip will put his name, and he leaves them with Lambo. The math problem is written on the board. And after that, we see Will, the cleaner in the institute, and he cleans the floors of the institute and will want mathematics and also organic chemistry. This is other than that, he is very educated. When Will sees this math problem, he becomes curious, and he moves it to take it together to the house, and after work, he meets his friend Will, Shaky, and they go to a bar to drink a little. But Will goes home early, and at home, Will starts to analyze a math problem on the bathroom mirror. And the next day, Will goes to his job at the institute and can analyze a math problem. And after work, Will goes with Shaky to play some baseball and joke. And at that time, there is a party at the university. Professor Limbo will be present. So his students come to him and tell him that someone solved the problem that was on the board. So Professor Lambo is surprised to go with them to the institute. And really, he finds the mathematical problem solved, and in a very neat way. So Lambo starts asking the student who solved it. Will and his friend finish the game at the club and ride in Shaky's car and meet the rest of their friends, Morgan and Billy. While they are walking in Arabic, they meet someone named Kampa. He used to train Will in the past when they were young. Kampa and his friends are harassing girls in the street, so Shaky stands in Arabic. Will comes down and catches Kampa and beats him, so Shaky and Morgan and Billy enter, but the police arrive and he forgets himself and keeps hitting in Kampa. Although the police are there, they take him with them to the police station, and we go back to the Lambo who enters his lecture and is surprised. There are a lot of people coming to see who is the genius who is able to solve the mathematical problem that the professor talked about, and the professor starts asking them all who did this to honor him and give him the prize. But he and his students are surprised that none of them says I, and we come back to Will, and who goes complaining, takes him in the car when he gets out of the police station and knows that he has a hearing with the judge after a week because of the fight with Kamba. And when Will goes to work at the institute, he finds the board empty, so he starts writing new mathematical theories on it. But when Lambo is out of his lecture, he sees Will, so he calls him. But Will walks, and after that, Will goes with his friends to Harvard. And there Shaky goes, and two girls stand with him to talk to them. But someone named Clark comes and stands with them, and hears Clark Shaky telling the girls that he was with them in school. A long time ago, Clark starts knocking on Shaky because he is not educated in the first place. So he sees them here and comes to stand in front of Clark and starts to knock on him and insult him, and Clark can't reply to him because all of Wall's words indicate that he is very clappy. So, of course, Clark has to shut up. And after that, it is a nice opportunity for Will to meet one of the girls named Skylar. And she gives him her home phone number and tells him that they can go out together. At that time, he goes to Professor Lambo and asks him with someone who works with them, cleaning a building, and of course, he stays. But he still doesn't know his name, so the officials there hesitate a little bit to give Will's statements. But with Professor Lambo insisting that the matter is very important, they change the name of the person in charge of Will. Professor Lambo knows that Will was imprisoned before and was released, but it was conditional release. That's why Will works through the prison reform office, and they were the ones who used to provide him with work inside the institute. After the week, Will's hearing in the case of the quarrel with Kamba begins, and the judge starts to tell Lowell many charges that he committed during 2 years. Will prefers to defend himself and doesn't need a lawyer, and this is what Lambo likes very much, because he was sitting and attended the hearing, but the judge sentences Will to bail $50,000 and takes Will for the reformatory because he is younger than 21 years old. And Will calls Skylar from the reformatory, and he asks her to meet soon, and after that, Will enters a locked room, and Professor Lambo is waiting for him inside to talk to him. And the professor offers him the deal of a lifetime and tells him to talk to the judge, and the judge agreed to release him, but with conditions. And Lambo also tells him that he needs him very much in the institute because he is a genius in mathematics, and says, why, that he must attend a session every week with a psychiatrist to evaluate his behavior and remind him of Lambo and warn him that if he violates any of these conditions, he will return him to prison again, so he opposes Will. But in the end, with Lambo words, because outside prison is much better. It's enough that he will take his freedom, and indeed Will agrees to his offer and Lambo's conditions, and Will gets out of the reformatory with Lambo conditions, takes Lambo to the institute, starts doing some tests in mathematical problems, and finds him very skillful and very smart as he expected, and Lambo starts to take Woe to a psychiatrist. The doctor's name is Henry, and he keeps walking a little bit in talking, but he surprises Henry and tells him that he is gay. So Henry is very surprised by Will's words and decides to end with the session. Lambo takes him to another psychiatrist, but he works with his patients. By hypnotizing Will is supposed to be asleep Will and start talking to him through his conscious mind, but Will prefers to lie to the doctor and pretend that he is hypnotized, and in the end, he comes out not sleeping and makes fun of all of them, and walks after that, saying that he does not need a psychiatrist. So he decides at that time, Lambo, that it is him. So Lambo decides then to travel to his roommate who works at the university, and his name is Dr. Sean, who is a psychiatrist. So Lambo goes to meet Sean at the university where he works, and when Lambo asks Sean why he didn't attend his student's graduation party, Sean tells him that he was busy. But Lambo notices that Sean is changed and that he isolated after the death of his wife, Nancy, because he loved her very much. So Lambo starts talking to Sean about Will the math genius and asks him for help to have a session every week with this guy, because he is in need a lot. But Sean tells him that he is very busy. But then Sean agrees, and Will's first meeting with Dr. Sean starts, and Sean asks Lambo to give them Lambo's assistant to go out and leave Will alone. And then he starts talking a little, and when Will finds a lot of books at Sean, he starts to make fun of him and tell him that he chooses the wrong books because he reads it, and then it catches Will's attention. An abstract painting, Sean drew it as a boat lost in the middle of the water, and the colors are colors at sunset. So Will starts analyzing this abstract painting of Sean, and really his analysis to a large extent is correct, and Sean confirms that. But when Will talks about Sean's wife without knowing her, he warns Sean that he alerts Sean to pay attention to his words. So Will starts talking more about Sean's wife. So Sean goes and catches him from his head and threatens him that if he talks about his wife and ends the session quickly and gets out of Sean's clinic in front of Lambo. Lambo is surprised by Sean because he asks him to answer Will, a session coming on Thursday at 4 o'clock, and Sean assures him that he must answer Will. Sean got himself into a challenge and decided that he will evaluate the behavior of this rebellious young man. The next day, Will goes out with Skylar, and they sit together in a place, and they start to know more about each other. So he knows from her, Will, that she herself enters the faculty of medicine. So he puts her time, Will, in his brain, that this relationship will certainly not be completed after that on Thursday, and Will goes to the second session. So how does he take him and go to set him in a public park? And Sean starts talking to him, and he tells him that he might have seen a lot of books about the war, for example, but he did not go to fight for real. And Sean wants to explain something to him with this example, that it is not possible for the person to think he is a genius and understand everything, and also start distributing his judgments to people without understanding. And of course, Sean means his wife, and Sean starts talking about Nancy, his wife, while he is touched, and tells him that she was an angel and he loved her very much. But cancer snatched her from him, so he feels guilty because he made a mistake in Sean's wife without knowing her truth, and he is silent. Will works with Shockey at a construction site because Will left the institute, and after work, he calls Skylar to hear her voice, but he doesn't talk and hangs up after he hears her voice, and the date of the third session comes, and he goes to Sean, but he stays silent throughout the session. He stays silent for a whole hour, and Sean is also silent. Until the time is counting, and he will walk. Then, the date of the fourth session comes, and he stays silent a lot, but he starts talking to Sean this time and tells him about Skylar and how much he loves her, but he doesn't want to ruin her life, especially that his life is unstable. So Sean tries to explain to him that sure, the girl, the one he loves, is also not complete, because the secret is that love brings together two together to complete each other and solve any problems facing him and his partner. And then they prefer to laugh a little when Sean talks about Woe. The situations are funny about Nancy. And after Sean is done with Woe, Will goes to Skylar's house and apologizes to her that he was busy and asks her to go out together. But she tells him that they might make it another time because she usually studies organic chemistry. And almost like that, she doesn't understand anything. So he takes Woe from her, the problems of organic chemistry, and solves them. And of course, this way you will be able to go out with him. And they go out now, and they go to attend a dog race. And Skylar is betting on a certain dog, and this dog wins the race. So Skylar is very happy, and then they start talking to each other a little bit, and Skylar knows that he has 12 brothers. So she is very surprised that after that comes the date of the fifth session. And in this session, Will takes the role of a psychiatrist and starts asking Sean about his wife, Nancy, and how they get to know each other. So Sean prefers to tell him that he is happy and talk about things that happened. Will sees his strong love for his wife, and one day Will's friend finds a very good job in a company called McNeil Foil. And it's a job opportunity for Will. The complainant goes to the interview in Will's place, and of course he gets crazy in the interview with the owners of the company, and they pay an annual salary of $84,000. And one day, Will is with Skylar at her home, and he knows from her that she will travel to California soon to enter college, but he gets annoyed, and he feels that she is going from him. And when she asks about his brothers, he tells her that they were torturing him. So Skylar feels that Will does not want to tell her, and that he has no confidence in himself, although she tries to help him and reassure him and tells him that she loves him and that she does not intend to abandon him. But he gets angry and walks away, and when he meets Will Lambeau, he knows Lambeau from him that he is inspired by the job he brought him at McKinnell, and he tells him that Lambeau says that I don't understand what Will wants exactly. And one day, whoa, comes another job offer from the National Security Agency, and they tell him that they need his mathematical brain very much to solve certain codes. But Will also refuses and justifies his refusal by saying that he can solve a certain code for them. And this code goes to a site in Africa or a country of those who fight them and beat them. And he remains the reason for the death of people, and he doesn't like to participate in anything of this kind. He comes after that to reestablish Will's session with Sean. And Sean Lowell says that he will stay like this if he doesn't change himself, and that he is always afraid of the next step. And here, Will gets angry. And he tells him that he too is not doing anything in his life after the death of his wife. So Sean kicks him out of the clinic politely and ends the session with him. Will calls Skylar to know from her when she will travel and tells her to take care of herself. So Skylar goes to the airport and takes her plane to California. And Will comes back again to work with Shockey in the construction work. And when their break time comes, he asks Shockey about Skylar, and Will tells him that she left already. So he asks Shockey when will he finish the psychological sessions with Sean. So he tells him Will finish as soon as he turns 21, and after that, they will get him a job. So he says complainant, which is that he has a talent that no one has, and he must take advantage of it. Lambeau goes to Sean and learns from him that he fired Will. So Will gets annoyed because he is going on Will's parole papers himself. So here he yells at Sean and tells him that Will needs more attention. And Sean continues and tells him that Will can't cope with anyone, especially that he lived about 20 years alone, and Sean and Lambeau prefer to argue, and their voices get louder while they talk about Will because Lambeau wants to use the talent and genius of Will without knowing if Will himself loves. As for Sean, he really wants to treat Will, correct his behavior to make him a good person, and at this time, Will is standing behind the clinic and heard all this talk. Will's father was an alcoholic, and he used to beat him very much. So Sean told Will that his father also beat him and tortured him and kept crying. And then he thought about the words of all the people who love him, and he goes to Mechanella to accept the job that Lambeau got. And the last session between Will and Sean comes, and Sean will be reassuring on woe that he went to the right job for him. And Sean says another last word before he leaves. He advises him to always do what he told him to rest and hug each other, the lap of farewell. Will's 21st birthday comes, and his friends celebrate him, and they collect money from each other to buy him a used car as a gift. So Will is happy with the gift, and at that time, Lambeau goes to Sean to apologize to him, but he finds him in an employee who told him to travel. And he tells him at that time, Lambeau, that he is sorry because he yelled at him. So Sean tells him that he is also sorry because he yelled at him, and the two reconcile between them. And Will goes to Sean's house in his new car and sees him from under the window. So Will goes and leaves Sean a message in the mailbox. And after that, he walks when Sean goes down and reads the letter. Will wrote him a thank you letter for everything and tells him not to be upset because he left the job at McKinnell, because he is now on his way to California to go to Skylar and start his new life with her because he loves her and hears his heart. And here, Sean is very happy because he was able to change from a guy whose life was lost, and at the same time, Shockey and Will's friends go home, but they discover that the house is empty. So Shockey knows at that time that Will went to Skylar. So Shockey is happy for his friend, although he will miss him, and finish the movie. Don't forget to say your opinion about this movie in the comments, and you can also suggest movies in the comments that we summarize on the channel of Movie Light. And don't forget to follow the channel, and goodbye.